Hello, everybody. It is 6 o'clock, and you are joining me with the 6 o'clock club. Hopefully, everything is working. I'm all by myself tonight, just me and everybody that is in chat. So, thank you very much for hanging out in chat with me. We've got quite a packed evening club. Thank you very much, Stuart, for letting me know that I am looking good and sounding good. Really appreciate it. Um, yeah, massive show. Just a lot of things to sort of squeeze into. I'm probably not going to get through it all. So, first and foremost, I am Andy from Twisted Narrative. Quite often forget to introduce myself. Hi. Hello, everybody in chat. We have certainly people that have spoken up. We have Stuart, we have Jack, we have Michael, hopefully Sarah as well. Yeah, that is where I am from. Um, but without sort of further ado, we're going to have to jump straight into it, as I say. We've got a lot of things to sort of talk about tonight. 6 o'clock club, talking about the role-playing games that Twisted Narrative do, pop culture, anything else that sort of comes up, news of the day that sort of affects us. And it's just an amble, really. I've had another idea that hopefully I will introduce tonight and continue going, but I'm always on the lookout for other things to include in my ramblings from 6 till 6:30, 6:45 before we go into tonight's game. So first of all, I want to quickly talk about last night's game, not for any reason other than it was really good fun. So last night we ran our Fortunes Untold game, Dungeons and Dragons set in Faerun, which is the Forgotten Realms. Um, Players were super awesome. We've got Roz, we've got Felicity, got Adrian, and we've got James. They started progressing through the tunnels of the Bitterfang savage tribe of orcs, trying to recover an artifact. Um, they battled their way through the poison waters of the river Sumu, um, past some orcs and into the lair. And there were a couple of very clever uses of spells. One which was very straightforward, exactly as it is meant to be used, but it more or less saved a character's life, which was Featherfall, um, a spell quite often overlooked. Um, I don't really want to go into the full sort of details of it because it might be a scenario I run again, but fundamentally there was a very dramatic moment that Featherfall was actually needed. Um, James, who plays Fane, had it prepared and used his reaction to cast it, and um, it was a game changer. Things could have gone very bad, so that was kind of really nice. I do like it when those kind of moments come together, because obviously Featherfall is a spell that kind of you prepared if you're a wizard. It's very situational, but those times that you do need it, it changes the game completely. Um, and James, as your character Fane, also did a very clever thing. The Savage Orcs were jumping over sort of waterfall coming down, jumping from sort of one part of the waterfall to another. And he cast just a little of illusionary, it wasn't illusionary train, but a little illusionary spell just to extend um, the edge of the cliff somewhat, and that caused the downfall, literally downfall, of one of these Bitterfang orcs. Again, very clever play. Um, the other players were super awesome as well. We've got a rogue, we've got a paladin, we've got a warlock that is thinking about going into Bard, which I can't wait for. So super fun game, incredibly clever use of the skills, and I can't wait for 2 weeks for the next part of it. So I thought I'd mention that. Some people in our Discord channel has said they like to hear kind of updates on the games and uses of clever things that players do or not so clever things that players do. So that is just a little update. Then we will come on to tonight's game. Uh, I'm sure everybody in chat wants to shout out the name of tonight's game. It is, of course, Icebreakers. Icebreakers is the name of the adventuring company. They started off in the world of Exandria. That's the Critical Role world, and they started off in Isle Cross, which is icy wasteland with this large lava river running through, hence the name Icebreakers. But it's a fantastic game. I think they might be up to level 12. I've been super generous with magical items, I think. So they've got some very good items amongst them as well, which I kind of like. I think certain settings, it's great to power up the heroes, so they have that very much heroic feel. I mentioned a couple of shows ago a little bit about the Icebreakers game. They have found an awful lot of plot out in the last session, sort of finding many of the, not just plot hooks, but their personal backstory sort of plots. And they've gone from arriving in the capital city of the Dwendalian Empire with looking for threads to suddenly, wow, we've got all these different directions to go. Obviously, I'm not going to do any spoilers because that would be ridiculous. But we've got some amazing role players in there, and I'm very excited to play it tonight. Fairly anxious as well. Something that we can talk about is storytellers, game masters, DMs, pre-game anxieties. I think most people get this. I certainly do. I know how to manage it, obviously, with the number of games that I run. But maybe it's that I'm always anxious kind of feel. But it's good anxious. It's not like, oh, what's going to happen? It's, oh, I really don't know what's going to happen. With the Icebreakers, they've got all these different plot hooks now. They could be going in any direction, and that anxiety is really adrenaline and excitement to see exactly where they're going to go. Knowing the Icebreakers, it's probably to the nearest tavern to play rollies again. But in about 50 minutes time, we will literally find out. But I thought I'd show you some of the things that they do, because we've got some talented people in there. I'm gonna. Nobody puts me in a box. Oh, I'm in a box. I'm in the box. I've been put in the box. I'm in the box. Ooh, like magic, I can make that happen. Look at this. Look at this. I am here. This is Fantasy Grounds now. It's up to you. If you're in Icebreakers and you want to bring up your character, you can. It's not the reason why I've done it. I've loaded it up, so I've saved some of M's sketches. We've got a great player, M. They play Florence, a Goliath, or Flo, and M is incredibly sort of talented in, rather than making just written notes, they do sketches, and I asked them today whether it was possible to show some of them, and they said yes. So that is what I'm going to do now. I am going to have to switch to Fancy Ground. So let us see. That is not what I want here. I want images. And here we go. Everybody that's in the Icebreakers game will be familiar because M does share these. So this is just, I've just chosen a few sort of random ones just to show you the fun that we have. Hopefully, can everybody sort of see that okay? Is it not too, it's not too small? Um, so I mean, this was done October last year by the look of it. We have a ship and we are in Stillburn. Dockmaster Lewis Day, he's dodgy. Um, the icebreakers actually met up with Old Gnarly, this kind of tree ent that was all sort of twisted and old, which is a very nice representation of them there. The big axe is representative of Flo's axe, and it's kind of an item of great significance and power, and is requiring these gems akin to the Infinity Gauntlet to totally empower up this vestige of divergence, which is another word for, you know, a powerful magic item from the very gods themselves. Um, so hence the axe. What's the name of the axe? Is it Jolene? I think it's Jolene that it's called. They also met this boathouse that was all dilapidated, and the mouth looked like a massive maw, and it was a massive maw. It was actually a huge mimic, but friendly to the settlement that they were in. So they actually made friends with stilts, hence that picture there. And then they headed off into Stillburn marshes, and they came across these petrified figures, and they had quite a tough battle. As they encountered some basilisks, but the basilisks didn't petrify to stone, they petrified to salt. A little bit of a reskinned creature, and I will come on to reskinned creatures in a moment. So it was quite a tough fight, caught them a little bit off guard, but again, some terrific role play. Jack's character Ace basically said that if he gets turned to salt, just make margaritas out of him. It was you kind of need to be there in the heat of the battle in the moment, but it was some epic dialogue and some marvelous role playing. So that is one of those, and then we will come to another one here. I think this is just salt marsh basilisk, very similar to the basilisks from the monster manual, but a nice imagery there. Em is incredibly sort of talented, as is Jack. I might ask Jack if I can show some of their character designs. They're absolutely amazing. This one predates it by the looks of the top of it. It's the 9th, well, the 15th of September 2022, and this is like the adventuring party here, marching along. We're going on a grell hunt, and we're going to smash their beaks in a dark ruin. We're not scared. Oh no, intellect devour us. We can't go under. We can't go over them. Oh no, we've got to slash them through. Stab, slash, stab, slash, stab, slash. Yeah, this was a very good, quite terrifying encounter. Intellect devourers, I think very much the challenge rating does not represent the danger of such creatures. Felgar and Rab are two characters' names, and they've got their minds eaten. How do we fix that? Now, Ace, time for Scuttly Brain Whack-a-Mole. Um, yeah, icebreakers. I'm very, very much looking forward to it tonight. Um, yeah, love your artwork as well, Jack. And I may have words just so I can show some of the fantastic work that you've done. If you've got any fond memories of the Icebreakers game, if you're in chat and you're playing it, please shout up. Um, Tomorrow night on the 6 o'clock show, I'll cover what happens in the Icebreakers. If they indeed do more than just play rollies in the tavern, I might cover that as well. And don't take that as I don't like it. It's actually a really clever way that the players have got for interpersonal role playing and extracting backstories from each other. Fundamentally, the game is you roll a d20, whoever out of the group rolls the highest, and whoever rolls the lowest, the highest roll gets to ask the lowest roll a question. And, they need to answer it really. So, whilst I jest, it's a incredibly good place to do role playing and get that interpersonal plot out that you perhaps don't think is appropriate in the heat of any kind of battle. And having these moments are what I believe anyway make role playing games so wonderful. So that is very much the icebreakers, as I say. Tomorrow I'll be talking about what happened, and I'll also be talking about Collateral Damage, which is tomorrow night's game at 7 o'clock. A little bit of an update. I can't believe we're 20 minutes into the show already. A little bit of an update about Saturday night's game. Saturday night we were doing a Call of Cthulhu campaign game. Unfortunately, some of the players can't actually make that. And because we're at a critical point in the campaign, we've decided to run a one-shot called It's Just Not Cricket, set in 1920s England in Oxford. So we've got some spaces basically. That is Saturday night, 7 till 10. Check it out in our Discord. A couple of spaces left. I'm very keen for the game to fire. It is a homebrew game, so I've worked very hard on it, and it's not something that you will be sort of familiar with before. So if you fancy trying Cthulhu, if you are a seasoned veteran and you fancy playing a one shot Saturday night, shout up. I'll get you booked on because I am very excited and very keen to run it. Right, so it has risen its head again. I'm not going to talk an awful lot about it, but it's certainly on some of our community's minds, and it is right across the internet. Once again, this OGL, the Open Gaming License from Wizards of the Coast. There was an announcement yesterday on D&D Beyond, which I'm just going to kind of show my thoughts upon. First and foremost, I think it's very important that we absolutely 100% clarify that we people are getting very sort of angry and cross and wound up by this situation, and we should be aware that we shouldn't take it out on anybody. I've seen some quite nasty and toxic things on Twitter going on about it, and it's kind of getting a little out of hand now, as far as I'm concerned. My personal view on what people should do about it is you vote with your own feet and your own conscience. I'm not here to judge you or anybody else, and I wouldn't want to be in that position. Um, I'm not going to be a hypocrite and say stop playing Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, not that you should say that anyway, because the subject matter is far more complicated than that. And I think we've hit a stage of misinformation now. And I don't think necessarily all of the misinformation is deliberate. Um, but it's very much now a case of take anything that you read from both sides with a pinch of salt, do your research and look very, very much into it. As for the new statement, it is much better worded than the previous statement, in my opinion. That doesn't mean that it really changes everything. There are a couple of things in there that it smacks of me, of sort of corporate, um, buying for time, hoping that the community actually turns on itself, rips itself apart, or people just get frustrated and fed up and forget about it, or just get bored with it. The idea of it is that they are saying that they'll take account of people's opinions now, that they'll send out a form that you can sort of reply to, akin to the playtest material. But I mean, I think they know what people want, which is just no change to the open game license and the word irrevocable sort of put into it. So it just smacks of me of buying time more than genuinely going to change anything. Um, but the message was much more positive than the message that we had previously. For the majority of people, I don't think you're going to see a huge change over the next 6 to 12 months, if at all. But my heart, once again, does go out to third-party publishers that are incredibly stressed and worried at the moment about their livelihoods. That's about as much as I've kind of got to say on it. I think fundamentally, let's hold our breath. Let's be nice to each other. Um, whichever side of the argument you stand. D&D is a brand. Role playing is what we all love to do, and role playing is about getting around a table with good friends and enjoying telling stories together. We'll always have that. I'm certainly not going to turn my back on playing Dungeons and Dragons in whatever format it is. But at the same point, I'm keeping my eyes sharply on Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast to see if they, in my opinion, do the right thing, you know. Um, so that is about as much as I've got to say upon it, which is fundamentally be nice to everybody, um, and start taking everything that is put on the internet, whether it's Twitter, whether it's through D&D Beyond or anywhere else, with a pinch of salt. Do your own sort of research. I think there's misinformation going on from both sides. So sorry to get a little bit serious there, but I don't want our community to become. I don't mean Twisted Narrative community. I mean the community as a whole to become sort of toxic and start turning on each other, and genuinely being nasty to people. Statement over. The next thing that I want to do is a little bit more fun. I thought what might be quite nice is to do some Dungeon Masters tips. I don't know how useful this is going to be for people, um, but it will certainly give you a glimpse behind my screen. Um, so you as players of my community and my games will get a better understanding of some of the techniques that I use, and it's not going to give you any kind of spoilers or anything like that. In fact, it'll start making you second guess. So, DM tip on the 6 o'clock club. Reskinning monsters. It's a very simple thing to do, but it can very much change the way the characters and players react to given encounters. You wouldn't believe the kind of successes I've had with it. Um, this is because the players quite obviously consume information because um, you know most games have a monster manual or a book of creatures and beautiful artwork, beautiful lore, and this information is consumed by players. And as much as some players don't want to meta game, that information is in the zeitgeist. It's difficult to forget some things that you know. But if you reskin your monsters at the table, not all the time, it gives a completely different slant. The players, the characters don't know what it is or how to react. Clever players will be able to go, oh, maybe that is something. Oh, it's used that now, and they can work it out. But that's quite good fun because the characters are beginning to work out what they're fighting against. So what do I mean? I've kind of got an example here. I haven't created it on Fantasy Grounds, but it'd be very easy to do. So we'll move to an iconic D&D monster, the Beholder. I mean, when a group of characters see a Beholder, it's a large sphere, big eye, um, eye stalks. They know what they're up against. It's a Beholder. It's designed to have that shock factor, and that's cool. Don't get me wrong. I'm certainly not saying don't use Beholders. But they know what it does. It's, oh my god, my magic. I need to get around the back. Oh my god. Oh yeah, the eye stalks, etc., etc. And the players, as much as they perhaps don't want to meta game, will struggle, and sometimes in a kind of negative way, in the fact that I've had players at my table that actively go against and do things they perhaps would do even if they didn't know what the beholder was, just because they want to meta game as much as possible. Um, so if you change that creature or use it in a different manner, they don't know what they're up against. So, for instance, we all know what a beholder does. It can cause an anti-magic field, and it has eye rays that it can shoot 3 times in a round randomly, causing things. Your party sort of moving through a ruined cathedral. You know that there are other individuals here, the Inquisition, those that hunt down users of magic, witches, sorcerers, warlocks. Um, you encounter a group of them. One of them is a reskinned beholder. Looks like an inquisitor, humanoid, big duster coat. He's got kind of a device that looks like a 6-barreled wand. Um, it has basically a kind of familiar, an imp or something that is constantly keeping a lookout behind him. And the first thing he does is reach in his pocket, pull out an orb and throw it down, smashing it, saying, no magic here. The anti-magic field comes in, he's shooting his 6-shooter wand, and the players are wondering what the hell is going on. It's a reskinned beholder, follows all the rules of a beholder, but to the players it's, I have no idea. Wow, what is it? Oh, we're in this field. Do we need to get out of the field? Is the field there all the time? Um, what's that? What's that wand doing now? Can he choose which one it is? It's throwing people around. Thank you very much for the follow, MJ, the GM. So I think you got the gist of that. Completely different visual, absolutely same stat block, um, and it will make the players think differently about the encounter. It will keep them on their toes, and it will stop them having to anti-metagame to kind of do deliberately suboptimal things because they're not sure whether their character would know what a beholder does. So that is a simple GM tip for the day. I might do more of these if you kind of like the sound of them. Might do some player tips as well. Who knows? Um, I'm making all of this up as I go along. Well, most of it anyway. Hope you liked that. So we've got about 15 minutes left before I will have to begin to get ready for tonight's game, the Icebreakers. So I've had a big meeting today with the person that I'm working on a number of publishing products with. Matt is his name. He joined Discord. Some of you might have been in the playtest game that we did, but we are beginning to look at turning our well, a lot of my content into um, a lot of my content into published work. Broken Fang said that's the kind of root skinning not thought of before making a monster creatures. Yeah, you can play around with things. It's actually an easy way to still have that challenge rating. Um, and sometimes you might have to change a few things or bump things up. But suddenly, the law of the beholder is they hate other beholders. They are antisocial. If it's a group of inquisitors, you can have one, two, three, huge contingent of them, all kind of trying to cut down magic users. They might want to capture magic users. You can use it whatever you want. You could reskin it as a dragon. It's an anti-magic dragon that breathes different blast effects. That is the ice stalks. As with any kind of tabletop roleplay game, you are only limited by your own imaginations. And sometimes the lore is incredibly good and strong and you don't want to break it. Other times it's worth just cracking that thing open, taking bits of it and kind of restructuring it to create different things. Anyway, so I had a big meeting with Matt today about it. It's looking like we are going to try and get our very, very first product together out around about March time, so watch out for that. It will be based in the world of mythical. It will be a sort of, I think, a sort of mini area setting, and it will have a sort of scenario as well. There'll be other things included in it, and we are going to make it, and I hate this word, system neutral. It's going to be all of the nice fluff background, concepts for encounters, and everything else that you need to be inspired by. But with everything that is happening at the moment, neither of us feel we want to tie it to any particular system currently. But a lot more on that in the future. In fact, Matt should hopefully be jumping into the 6 o'clock show next week at some time. We'll have conversations and you can obviously ask questions as well. So that took up quite a big part of my day today. The other thing, uh, the other thing which is very exciting, indeed, MJ, indeed, um, is I've been an alchemist today. Ooh, look at this! I can't find my camera. I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, an alchemist. I've been doing this. Um, this is where I can't work out how things work. Let me have a look, see if I can make this happen. It's worked. Look at that. Now that's not what I've been doing. I got directed to a computer program called Dungeon Alchemy. It's a map making resource for making dungeons, rooms, everything else. It's on Steam. It's about 32 quid. Um, and Paul, one of my good friends, kind of said, you should have a look at this. I know that I need to name check Ian as well, because I'm fairly certain Ian told me about this a long time ago. And I just basically was too busy. So big thumbs up to Ian for being there even before Paul. But I had a conversation with Paul, and we were talking about a project we might be working on. And he goes, "Have you seen this?" And I went, "Well," and he kind of showed me, and I was sold straight away. Now, uh, to my mind, not knowing how computer things work, it is amazing. So we go to File and we go to New Map. So you can print it sort of on grids or digital, which is what we want. You can change the size of the thing that you want. So I don't know, let's go 50 and 25. And then you can choose your terrain. That it's jungle there, but if we go for something fairly straightforward, grasslands, you can choose elevations, hills, mountains, ravines, floodplains, whether it's flooded, island. There's a lot of things to choose from here, and then you just create. But this just generates the terrain. There we go, and we can obviously scroll out. So this is a top view, but you can obviously scroll around like that, and you can see it's that view as well. So that in itself is fairly good, but that's not what it's all just about. Um, Over here, you can see there's all sorts of things, and it's like, well, what we want to do is have a bit of a crypt. So what do we want in a crypt? Well, let's have a great hall. So you can do this, and you can choose the size of what you want. Great hall, we'll have it at that size. Click on this, boom, there's a great hall. That's fairly cool, and you can see now that it's kind of raised it up a bit. But we haven't finished there. Sort of next to there, I think we need it leading into some kind of chapel. So let's have a sort of very long kind of chapel like that. It kind of puts a little door there, and I don't know. Let us have a hallway leading from here. We'll make it sort of like that, a big hallway there, like that. Let's put some terrain in there, and then off this hallway we'll have, I suppose, another great hall uh, like this. Make it a smaller hall like that little room there. Now it's gave us a little door there. In the chapel, which you can sort of see here, let us put a burial chamber as well. In fact, why not have a few burial chambers? Because we can. And I've not really played around it too much, so you've got all of that there now, and that's pretty neat. That is pretty neat. It's only taken me a few minutes to do, and obviously we've got the downside view as well. Um, there's a couple of other pretty damn amazing things here, you see, because what we can do is we can export this now. So we can export this map out, and we can actually export it to Fantasy Grounds, and not only will it copy it to, well, copy files to go to Fantasy Grounds, but it will also do line of sight, and it will also do lighting effects sort of more or less immediately. So it's very, very cool. On top of that, it's like, oh, do we want some items? Do we want some extra lighting? Do we want some furniture? And you can choose from all of these different types of furniture. You know, let us stick this up there. So we kind of, we can put some furniture there. But I discovered this just before we started the 6 o'clock show. That isn't all. They've got tokens here. So if you pop a little sort of token here, and there's this little eye icon. Yeah, can you see? Can you see? Uh, that's just what we've put there. And oh, let's go into this here. Oh, look at this. Oh, and into here and into here. Burial chambers. Yeah, it's that's a candle, and we can place other things. There's a little font here. Um, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. It blew my mind as I started doing it. As a time-saving sort of map maker, it's going to save me a ton of time. And you kind of we can sort of escape. I think if we escape, we just come out of it again, and there we are. We're all golden. Um, but I thought I'd share that with you. MJ, it's on Steam. It's about 32 quid. There's no, as far as I'm aware, there's no subscription. You know, you buy it and you've got it. It seems very much like they're updating it all the time as well. There is you can do other things as well that I discovered. So if you come down here, you see that it's got place walls. You can reskin some of these buildings. So if, for instance, you kind of wanted wood panels, you can do that, and it'll put wood panels in instead. So you can kind of change the nature of it. Um, and also they've got what they call festive. So, for instance, I think the only festive thing they've got is this gingerbread house at the moment, but no doubt they are working on all sorts of other kind of festive type things for your maps. So I did want to share that with you. I'm yet to sort of fully explore it, but you can see that I did that in, well, what 5-10 minutes. I could export it. We're getting close to being able to, you know, in real time, create a very quick area for the for my players in Fantasy Grounds. Oh, so you want to go to that place there? Um, as the players are role playing amongst themselves, import it into Fantasy Grounds, and there we go. I think what I might do for the guys that are in my game now is I'm just going to close that down. Um, I'm going to. I think we need to put the grid on in Fantasy Grounds, but everything else should work. Let us see if I boom, boom, export, renders light image and exports to, and that's the default Fantasy Grounds, top down, boom, export. You probably can't see any of this, but we're exporting it now. And in a moment or two, Jack, you're in there. If you want to quickly do an experiment for me, let me see if I can sort this out. So in Fantasy Grounds, you have to open up your assets file, and you go to your images file. you open up your folder there. I'm just very aware that we do have icebreakers coming up very soon. We pop in the untitled map, and we pop in the untitled map here. We go back to Fancy Grounds and we refresh. I've just realised you're looking at the wrong thing, so I'm talking this through and you don't know what we're doing. So give me a moment to change the game capture to Fancy Grounds. There we go. So hopefully you can see Fantasy Grounds now. Now I've popped it into there. I've refreshed the folder. I'm going to open up my assets in my campaign. I'm going to open up an image, which we've got here. We can use this. And then we just have to find the map that we've created. As you can see, I've got quite a few sort of maps and various things here. There we go, untitled map. Thank you. I thought that wasn't going to work for a moment. We put map, and then we have to put a grid to it because I don't think it gives the grid, but I quite like that anyway because it means that we control the scale. Putting a grid onto Fancy Grounds is not that difficult, so we can do that. I tend to like the darker color. Okay, now if everything is to be believed, you can see that this is the map that we've just created there. We've put a grid on it, but what we will really need is our character. How do you do there? Can you see that, Jack? You're in Fancy Grounds. You are on the map that we just created. You might even be able to move your character about. But yeah, so that fast, and you can see the line of sight has already been put on. You can't see it. I don't know. It's probably because I'm an idiot and didn't share it with you. If you'd clicked onto your token, I hadn't actually shared it with you in my super speed. Yeah, you go. And Ace is now literally line of sight on those pillars. You can see. It's and that's the environment that I've just walked around with my token as well. So yeah, I'm very excited by this, both in terms of creativity. I'm not the best drawer, but this tool allows me to create some very devious places for my characters to explore. So I thought you'd all might be very, very excited and interested to see that. I have a feeling I'm going to get an awful lot of use out of it. Right, as usual, I told you it was a packed one. We've gone from last night's game to tonight's game to Call of Cthulhu call out for games that are going on. I'm just going to answer you, MJ. Shadow of the Demon Lord campaign books suffer from the lack of usable maps. This solves it. Absolutely, MJ. More than happy. We're all in it together, and I truly believe sharing ideas, swapping ideas. It doesn't really matter how experienced you are. I've been doing this for what feels like a lifetime. Still learning myself. So check it out. It is called Dungeon Alchemist. I got it from Steam today. Should be fairly easy to do, and I don't think it's particularly resource heavy. So I've got quite a good computer, but I'm not having any kind of issues running that and running Fantasy Grounds and running Discord at the same time, if you see what I mean. Okay, I'm afraid I would love to carry on, but I have an appointment with the icebreakers. In 10 minutes, I'm about to run a very exciting 3-hour game where I have literally no idea what they are going to do next. So I'm going to love you all and leave you. Remember, be kind to each other. We're in interesting times at the moment. It is the 6 o'clock club. We'll be here tomorrow night. We're here Monday to Friday. Um, who knows what I'll be talking about tomorrow night? But um, yeah, come and find out. Take care, everybody. Stay safe, and remember, be good to each other. Catch you all later.